Wizards Postgame Live.
Sunday night hoops, Wizards hosting the #1 team in the Eastern Conference, the Milwaukee Bucks, led by Giannis Antetokounmpo, who tonight only had 23 points, albeit part of a triple-double. The Wizards, Bradley Beal with 33, Porzingis with 24, but not enough to overcome the three-point shooting from the Milwaukee Bucks. Final score 117-111. Welcome to Postgame Live. Wes Hall here with Jason Smith. We'll be joined by Chris Drew and Megan here momentarily. Sticks, this was a weird game in a sense that, you know, that first quarter we're like, oh, Milwaukee might have us. And then the second quarter we're like, hey, we got this thing. And then it just kept going back and forth. The three-point shooting from Milwaukee has to be the difference maker tonight.
Absolutely. You have 22 three-pointers for the Bucks. You have 8 for the Wizards. It was that right there. Opening thoughts. I mean, this game, they won the points in the paint. They won the second champ points. They won the points off turnovers. They took care of the ball. They didn't turn the ball over. So for me, the Wizards played a great game, but the Milwaukee Bucks, they played their game strategy. They're going to take away the threes, they're going to take away the layups, and they're going to give you mid-ranges. Literally, you stack three-point shooters around Giannis. He's driving the lane. He's attracting a whole bunch of attention. He'll collapse your defense, and that's what he did. He was more of a distributor. I have not seen a triple-double performance where he was so disinterested just because the Wizards were collapsing their defense. They were making sure that Giannis doesn't go off. Well, what happens? Javon Carter goes off. Joe Ingles goes off. Counteract that with a Bradley Beal. He got activated in the second half. Porzingis had 18 points in the first quarter. I think overall the Wizards, they played a pretty good game. They stayed within 5-10 points the entire game. They even took the lead in the second half. Just couldn't come out with the win in the second half.
Jason, I know we've got a piece later on that's going to, show you about analytics and their value to the game, and I really appreciate this. But if I were to use an analytical term about tonight, effective field goal percentage. What is that about? Threes are worth more than twos. Simple math. The Wizards knocked down 46 of 108. Milwaukee hit 39 of 84, but again, 22 three-pointers.
That's nuts.
Basic math right there. So what does that tell you when a team has a hot hand like that from the perimeter? And again, you mentioned this during pregame. They want you to shoot mid-range shots, but they're going to knock down threes on the opposite side of your twos.
You know, we're going to take away the layups because it's a high percentage shot. We're going to take away your threes. That's a high percentage shot for most teams. Most of the time, you don't want to have the mid-range game, and that's what they do. They do really well at forcing you into those shots because Brook Lopez will be sitting down right in front of the rim, protecting the rim. The guard, he's going over the screen, and he's preventing you from knocking down a three. If you go under the screen, Brad will step back for a nice little three. Porzingis, step back for a three. I think that mid-range, they're daring you to shoot that shot. I was a part of the Milwaukee Bucks, and that defensive strategy did not make sense to me. As a big, I either want to be up at the point of the screen or maybe a little bit off, but those bigs sit at the front of the rim on a consistent basis, daring you to shoot those mid-range shots because of the adage, threes is more than twos. So it works out for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Welcome today, children. This class is brought to you by effective field goal percentage. Let's bring in Chris and Drew, not to make light of anything, but I do want to get their thoughts on tonight. Guys, most in particular, we're talking about the differences in shooting style that Milwaukee employs versus how they defend. The Wizards were able to shoot anywhere they wanted to, but Milwaukee said, you can only have that mid-range. We're going to do our work from outside, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, you had enough to win this ball game tonight, if you ask me, with the Wizards. It came with the game plan. These numbers are battle-tested, and I said it in the Drew's Clues of victory. You have to guard the three-point line. I knew that coming in. The Wizards knew it coming in. Milwaukee Bucks knew it coming in. That didn't happen. 22 for 49. That was, like Stick said, the game right there. Yes, you stopped Giannis. Yeah, you saw a steel curtain. But the rotations, is primarily in that first half, were not on point. They were not having multiple efforts getting the shooters. And the 2 times they did not do that in the second half came back to bite them in the butt when Grayson Allen and Joe Ingles hit that corner, those 2 corner threes.
Yeah, Giannis got his triple-double. Congratulations to him on that to go along with the 3 blocks. I thought he was a really good facilitator. You guys talked about that three-point shooting. I will say this, though. I've seen games this year where a guy like DeMar DeRozan had 30 points and he didn't even take a three.
Yeah.
So there's some teams that will shoot in the mid-range. So, yes, I understand analytics about shooting threes and getting into the paint. But listen, if somebody's going to allow you to shoot in the mid-range, you're supposed to take the shot. And the Wizards just didn't make enough of those tonight. I understand threes are better than twos, but I thought the Wizards went under a lot of those three-point shots early in the game, and then give credit to Javon Carter and Grayson Allen. There was a stretch there where they hit a three. They took turns. And I didn't think Javon Carter was going to be a key coming into this game, but he got going early. And then Grayson Allen got going, especially in that fourth quarter. Hence the reason why this Milwaukee Bucks team leaves here with a 6-point victory.
Chris, to your point, we knew that 18 points that Porzingis had in the first quarter, that was something to keep our eyes on. But we knew that Kyle Kuzma was not available tonight. So it was going to be on Porzingis and Beal to lead the way. Beal has 33 points, 9 boards. What did you make of his second half, knowing that this team needed him with the absence of Kuz?
I thought he was really aggressive. We talked about the lack of turnovers, but he had a costly one down the stretch. But offensively, he was getting where he wanted to on the floor. And again, Bradley Beal scored 33 points. You know how many threes he made tonight, guys? None.
Zero.
So what are we talking about? This guy can get anywhere he wants on the floor, and he still was able to lead the Wizards in scoring without making the three-point shot.
Drew, when I look at the big guys inside, obviously Porzingis had you 24, Gafford with 8. Now, both of these guys, Porzingis had 4 fouls, Gaff has 3. What did you make of how the Wizards were able to deal with a guy like Brook Lopez, who Jason Smith has already told you, just kind of likes to hang around the rim and kind of play bully ball down inside?
Yeah, well, where he kills you and hurts you is trailing for those threes in transition, or when bigs are on the drop coverage with Giannis and trying to be rim protectors like Porzingis and Gafford. I mean, he just floats on that perimeter. As soon as you fall asleep, wham, he has you. And he's good at trail threes, and he can extend that from almost 30 feet at his height. So, yes, he can block shots. We know that on the defensive end. Yeah, he used to be one of the best post players in this game, but his game is definitely transferred out onto the perimeter, and where he hurts you now is from the three-point territory, three-point line, shooting threes, and he's done it the last 3 games.
Chris, Drew, we appreciate you as always. Guys, I got to head back on the road, heading up to Detroit. I remember you guys talking about the schedule adjustment during the game, so hopefully you guys will be able to adjust as well. And we look forward to seeing you Tuesday at 7 o'clock as a tip-off, 6:30 for pregame.
Hey, man,
live.
we're in the middle of 4 games in 5 nights. We're great.
I love it. Guys, enjoy the rest of the night. We'll see you guys on Tuesday.
You got it.
Jason, something that stuck out to me as I'm sitting here thinking about, each guy's kind of productivity through the night. I forgot to mention the fact that both teams were coming off losses. Us coming off a gritty kind of Toronto fight. The Bucks coming off like what felt like a marathon, even though it was only in 4 quarters, but it felt like a marathon against Philadelphia. When you think about the usage of Porzingis, we had missed a couple of games with him before with this knee. How are you assessing his usage right now? Again, in the absence of Kuz, knowing that you got Detroit, and as Chris said, a lot of games stacked in a short amount of time.
Well, you needed that offensive production. You leaned on Bradley Beal a lot, but Porzingis, he got the party started in that first quarter alone. 18 points. He kept the Wizards within that fighting battle and keeping the point total close. But I thought in that second quarter, he went missing. That's the Milwaukee Bucks saying, hey, there's one guy that's hurting us, and it's this guy right here. Make sure you get out into the perimeter, contest his shots, don't put him on the free throw line. He's a very talented player. But then what do you have? You have Bradley Beal take over the game, especially in the second half. He was aggressive, getting to the rim and knocking down his shots. Again, these two combined, Bradley Beal and Porzingis, they did not shoot the ball well from 3. They were 1 for, I think, 12, 13. So I want to see more consistency from the three-point land, but that's what the Bucks do. They take away the threes, they take away the layups. They want to invite you to shoot the mid-range. And I think that the Wizards played really well on the offensive end. You take care of the ball. You don't have 24 turnovers like you did the night before. You have 9. That's great efficiency right there. You win all the statistical categories except for the threes. And mind you, the Milwaukee Bucks made 22 threes. That is not normal for any other team. But this is the #1 team in the Eastern Conference, and that's why.
Look, Milwaukee employed the old adage, 2's for thee, not for me. I'll take the 3, and we'll do what we do. I want to bring in Megan McPeak and join us still from Capital One Arena tonight. Megan, same kind of question I was asking the guys earlier tonight, but really about how both of these teams wanted to bounce back after taking losses. The Wizards needing this win tonight. What say you about what you saw from the way that they performed, albeit the caveat, the absence of Kyle Kuzma and Monte Morris?
Yeah, I think when you look at all the things that could have gone wrong without Kyle Kuzma, offensive rebounding with regards to keeping the Bucks off the offensive glass and limiting their second chance points. Check. They did that. They did a fantastic job of limiting them. Keep in mind, though, of course, the Bucks were making shots, so there's no offensive rebound when they're making shots. But when the Bucks were missing shots, they only allowed them just 5 second chance points. That's very good when you think of the fact you go back to that second game in Milwaukee after the new year. Brook Lopez himself had 6 offensive rebounds. So you did a very good job there. The other area, when you look at what could have gone wrong, was the fact that turnovers. That was a big issue against the Toronto Raptors. Did they have turnovers in this game? Yes, but not nearly to the extent of which they gave up against the Toronto Raptors yesterday evening. So you had to clean things up after those 2 games with Toronto, and you did a very good job. You knew what you were coming into, and I thought you look at the fourth quarter and even the second half. They hold Giannis in that fourth quarter in the second half. Just 2 field goals made and attempted. Yes, he got to the free throw line a lot, but the fact that you did a good job and you forced him into facilitating, at the end of the day, you did what you needed to do with regards to not allowing him to get downhill, to get to the rim as much as possible. You forced him to be a facilitator, and at the end of the day, his teammates made shots. That's all you can ask for with trying to contain and stop a guy who's as potent and lethal as Giannis can be when he gets downhill. So I thought the second half they did a much better job defensively with containing Giannis. It's just that guys like Grayson Allen, Joe Ingles, Javon Carter, they were there to make the shots when the pass was made, and that's a tough thing to, it's tough, but that's the way basketball is. Sometimes the ball doesn't bounce in your favor.
That's why it's a team sport. You got to watch every guy that takes the court in the other team's jersey. Megan, I appreciate you. Don't move. I got head coach Wes Unseld Jr. at the post-game podium right now. I want to give Wizards fans a chance to listen.
With some of them, we got caught over helping. And like we talked about before the game, that's, they're going to be a high-volume three-point shooting team. They shoot it with some degree of efficiency. 22 threes, it's a lot. It's tough to overcome. But we knew going in we're going to have to live with some, by loading to Giannis and showing him a crowd. He's going to kick it out. So, some of them I'd live with, and then we got caught once again over helping probably like 3 or 4 times. Decent job on the glass, but it was a big 3 late, offensive rebound, kick out 3. I think it was a 1-possession game. Minute 30 left. That was a big play.
And what was different for KP after the first quarter, offensively?
I think some of it was a little fatigue. He got some really good looks, and struggled obviously from 3. But I think he did a pretty good job of fighting and battling, being in position, guarding a ton of pick and rolls, the various combinations with us being cross-matched. It takes a toll for a guy to have to kind of process time and time again who's involved, what's my assignment. Articulate that on the fly, and for the most part, I thought he did a pretty good job with it.
Wes, this is a game I feel like that earlier in the season, you have to be really proud of the rebounding you guys did, points in the paint, all of the kind of other categories where you really excelled. Does it feel the same at this point in the season?
No, it doesn't, because you want to come away with these type wins. It's great. We did some really good things. For the most part, held Giannis in check, well below his season average. Obviously, he gets to the line 12 times, got to the line 15 times tonight. But in general, making life tough, showing crowds, trying to keep him out of the paint was a priority. Decent job overall, for a heavy paint team. Obviously, the three-point line is where we got dinged.
What do you tell the team then in that case?
I mean, there's still areas for us to be better. I think they're aware of that. But, you want to, of course, accentuate the good stuff. As far as game plan, we did what we were supposed to do. There were some coverage mistakes. There were some lapses. Obviously, our transition defense early in the game was a problem. That got progressively better. But to your point, a high-volume offensive rebounding team, we negated that. And a high paint team took care of that area. But the three-point line is where the game was lost.
You talked about the overhelping and things like that, so I guess was the game plan to not necessarily sag that much off shooters, and it's just kind of lapse of judgment?
No, it's you be in the right spot early, so now it's just a one-way help. But we got caught kind of outside in, on the outside looking in, then trying to get in to get out. You can't do both. So if you're in the right spot early, gives you a chance to make a play on the ball and be in a coverage position. And then when that ball fires out, you know, there's a sense of urgency to get there, but you can do it. I thought we were at times late, so we were late to get to where we should be, and then tried to make a secondary effort that puts you in a tough spot.
And just what can you say about Denny's performance, even though, you know, I'm sure he was
Yeah, proud of him. I mean, he was, up until the last minute, he was wavering, wasn't feeling well. And for him to gut through that and play, you know, at the level he played, I think that's significant. It's, you know, it's growth for him. Shows it, you know, he's what he's made of, you know, a little bit of toughness, grit. And, you know, he laid it out there, so I'm proud of him.
Hey, Coach, you always say everybody goes through back-to-backs. Both teams were 1-1. What did you see from the effort level tonight from the team?
No, I thought the effort was there. It really was. I thought not only, you know, the physical, but the mental part. For the most part, dialed into what we were supposed to do. You know, no one plays a perfect game. We know that. But, you know, I think it's tough on a back-to-back to, you know, turn the page, look at the next opponent, and then kind of dial into what that game may demand. There's a lot of layers to what we have to do to defend a team like that. So I thought in general it was pretty good.
Also, Coach, want to get your thoughts on the bench production. How did you feel?
Head coach Wes Unseld Jr. there in the post-game locker room. Coming up on the other side, Bradley Beal walking up Wizards franchise history in a certain department. I'm not going to steal the moment from you. I'm just going to ask you to wait until the other side when we return on Wizards post-game live. Welcome back to Wizards post-game live after Wizards taking on the Bucks. Everybody in the crowd getting pumped up, especially the Beal family. Why? Because the Padafamilia, the father, Bradley Beal, climbing up Wizards franchise history as we speak tonight, tying another Wizards legend in the steals department. Look at this, all-time steals in Wizards franchise history. Brad today tied Greg Growler for 762 steals. Elvin Hayes and the legend Phil Chenier on that list as well. And of course now, only behind his former teammate, Jason Smith's former teammate, John Wall at 976. Congratulations to Bradley Beal making history on a night-in, night basis. But with that in mind, Jason Smith, we saw the 33 points from Brad tonight. We know about the 9 boards. My question to you is, as his former teammate, how does he lead? What version of Brad do we need to lead the charge as we head towards the postseason? You got Detroit and 2 homers against Atlanta coming up.
Well, I like to see him aggressive. I will say, though, it's hard to be aggressive when Porzingis is out there getting 18 points in the first quarter. In that second half, though, he was getting activated. He was taking the challenge of Javon Carter getting into him, making sure he was getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line. Now, mind you, he only had 3 free throws. He was getting to the basket. Grayson Allen was having difficulty guarding him. Drew Holiday was pretty much a lockdown defender, but Brad is an offensive juggernaut. He gets past people, he gets to the line, he gets to the bucket. But free throws weren't going. Plus, he was 0 for 5 from 3, and he still had 33 points. This guy is aggressive on the offensive end, but if you want to have postseason aspirations, you need that consistently. Now, missing Kuzma out there, it gives him more opportunity to go out there and do his thing. And I think he did that, but you gotta have it all the time. Now, granted, he'll have spurts where he has 33 tonight. He had 37 in a win against Atlanta. But then you kind of see him go missing, 14, 15 points. But that's just the big 3. The dispersion of point totals going from Porzingis to Kuzma to Beal. As long as he's remaining aggressive within the offense and moving the basketball, I like that version of Bradley Beal.
It's interesting enough that all the things you mentioned today, tonight, he had 5 fouls, and you look back at the previous 4 games before that, Megan, he had a combined total of 5 fouls over the previous 4 games. We need him aggressive. Like Jason Smith said, him being downhill is a positive for this team, but how does he balance that out with now knowing that teams are going to try to wear him out on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, it's a tough situation to be in, but that's what happens when you're the franchise player. Like, you've got to accept the fact that this is how you lead, and you've got to try to manage and finagle your way to try and get some rest as much as possible. And if that's on the offensive end, then that's where you get it. But I know when you look at the way that they deploy him on the defensive end, with the way he guards guys, you look at the way you would guard a Javon Carter, nobody expected Carter to come out and shoot the way he did in this game. And that's typically where you would see Brad is not necessarily on the best offensive player to try and give him some ability to rest on that end of the floor, knowing that when you don't have one of your big three, there's even more pressure on his shoulders as the leader. So I thought tonight it was a tough night because, one, he's guarding Carter, who has a really hot shooting night. He also gets into foul trouble, unfortunately, which then puts him in an even bigger predicament because then he has to sit for majority of that third quarter, and you don't have him in the third quarter to try and make that push early. Because I thought fourth quarter, it's much like we saw with him against Atlanta on the road. He just decided, you know what, I'm going to get downhill. I'm going to put the team on my shoulders, as broad as they are, and I'm going to try and do everything I can to get us a bucket. And unfortunately, because of that foul trouble, he couldn't do it in that third quarter with sitting on the bench. But the fourth quarter, you're also then fatigued when you look at the fact they expended all of that energy to get back into the game and just didn't quite have enough gas left in that tank to finish the job. But I thought it was a valiant effort. But at the end of the day, you can't really ask much more of Brad. Like, at the end of it's 48 minutes. He's got to play both ends of the floor. This is not like soccer where he can kind of just cherry pick where he's going to play, just is a striker and can just go offensively. He's got to play on both ends. And that's why you see him typically guard the second or third best offensive player on opposing team to try and, you know, quote unquote, hide him, as they call it, to give him some rest on the floor.
Jason, she brings up a good point about fatigue. Because, again, I'm mentioning Detroit Tuesday, and then we've got Atlanta coming on a back-to-back on Wednesday and then on Friday as well. When I think about Brad, she mentioned the early first quarter for him, 4 points. I'm of the school of thought that if we can, I like getting leads and breathing a little bit.
Yep.
To me, you're a former NBA player, is that a better way to mete out energy throughout the game so you're not having to play 48 minutes wall to wall if you do the work early? And this is not a low shot of criticism, but what I'm saying strategically, when you have a chance against the Detroit Pistons and an Atlanta Hawks team, get out early as much as you can, if possible, and that way you can take a breather on the back.
Well, let me tell you this. Have you ever heard the adage of easier said than done?
Yes, I live by that.
That is absolutely easier said than done. You want to do that. That's perfect case scenario. But with Bradley Beal, he's having the best defender all over him all night. So he has to work extremely hard on the offensive end. Okay, that makes it a little bit difficult. He had a slow start to the game, but Porzingis, he leveled up his level of play. You take that third quarter, he was doing great. He was being aggressive on the offensive end, but he got into the foul trouble. You even saw him when he was checking out of the game. He was pissed that he had to go sit down because he's a competitor. He knew he was on the hot seat right there. He was heating up. He was scoring and scoring a lot to keep the Wizards close and spark that comeback. I think with him getting into that foul trouble, that really kind of slowed the Wizards down just enough for the Bucks to kind of regain their momentum and finish out the game. I think moving forward, though, with the Detroit Pistons, it's going to be a little bit different of a game. Young team. Every single player is working for their NBA lives. They're not necessarily trying to win game, but they're trying to make spoilers. And Washington Wizards are sitting at the 10th seed right now. That Detroit Pistons is trying to be a spoiler for the Washington Wizards.
Getting into the numbers there, Jason. Yeah. I see what you're doing. Sounds like you might be inclined to like analytics, sir.
Maybe.
Maybe. I'll take a maybe. Yeah. Megan, you cool with us talking about some analytics on the other side?
Sure.
I'll take that. Thank you. On the other side, coming up, we're actually going to get into our analytics piece. It's not just about the numbers. It's how they actually are manifested on the court tonight. And by the way, shout out to Denny Abdi, first game back after having to step away last night. Denny gave you 17 and 6. Shout out to him. We'll talk about that and more on the other side when PostGame Live returns. Welcome back to Wizards Post Game Live. Corey Kispert last night had 12 points. Tonight, end up with 11. 4 for 4 from 3 last night. Tonight, 3 for 7. I'll take 7 threes in 2 games. That's 3.5. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is a justification for an effective field goal percentage. See what we did there? A little bit of analytics. Well, if you don't believe me, look at our team from Monumental Sports and how they actually use analytics per night.
Team efficiency rating. The offensive rating is points produced per possession times 100. Points produced, that's just 2 times your field goal made, plus 3-point field goals plus free throws made. Possessions are field goals attempted plus turnovers plus a fraction of your free throw attempts minus offensive rebounds. These formulas translate very well to whatever league we're looking at. We can evaluate teams and players very efficiently with that data.
So when people ask me, like, well, what do you do? I always say basically using data and statistics to try to win games.
There are a lot of statistics that you can use for trivia. Who was the highest scorer of all time? Who had the most rebounds? Analytics is more appropriate for what do we do to beat our next opponent? What are the things strategically that they do poorly? What are the things that they do well? What are the things that we can do to attack them?
Our work touches everything from who should we draft, who should we sign in free agency, for whom should we trade, how should we think about this player's return to play after a hamstring injury, how do we improve this player's shooting? I mean, it is everything.
I think it goes back to information, right? What data models are saying about what's happening is information the same way that what a coach sees and what video is saying is information. Wouldn't you want the best possible information to make decisions?
For every game, there are cameras in every arena that track the location of the players and the ball. These are all electronic, automatic. There are definitely things within a game that we will track by hand. Basically, every game I take notes on what's going on. These are notes that are just more detailed. We talked about manual tracking of the game. During games now, I will basically put down notes for things that I need to follow up with, things that may have worked, things that may have not worked in a game. Analytics in basketball has changed a lot of the sport. The game has evolved and dramatically changed. When I see there's a group with the Wizards that does some of this work, I feel happy that they have learned from what I produced a long time ago, what I produced over the last 15 years while I've been in the league. I'm happy to see that we have Kathy Evans here. We have a lot of women in the sports analytics field, not only in basketball, but outside of basketball. I like the fact that there are sports analytics club programs in high schools that are using sports to teach math, giving kids an opportunity to have a career where that question that a lot of us asked in school, like, what is it good for? Now you can give them a very tangible answer. It's working in sports, applying your math skills. That is very satisfying to me. Yeah, when I step back and just allow myself to just kind of enjoy, it makes me feel good that what I did matters to teams that are winning championships, and hopefully we do that as well.
Thank you, Monumental Sports, for that feature piece right there. Numbers matter. That's why we're taking a look at our FanDuel best bets of the night. Bradley Beal making the first basket, plus 600. A $10 bet would have won you $60. How about the unicorn Kristaps Porzingis with 14 or more boards at plus 700? A $10 bet would win you $70 right there, Jason Smith. Speaking of Kristaps Porzingis, my friend, looking back at his last 5 games, Megan, I'm coming to you first on this one because he's been messing with me over here while we've been watching the show. Regardless of his shooting tonight, 1 for 8 from deep, over the last 5 games, he's still averaging 42% from behind the arc.
What's your question?
How awesome is that?
See, me and Sticks are on the same page with that. Like, what?
No, analytics. As former players, we don't get into the whole analytics thing. But
yes, we don't like analytics.
Y'all know the adage: men lie, women lie, numbers never lie.
But sometimes analytics numbers do lie.
What
DeMar DeRozan.
Oh, the master of the mid-range, which he does not like that.
He's a great architect of the numbers, but the reason I ask you about Porzingis is, again, in spite of a night where he goes 1 for 8 from deep, that's 13%. Over the last 5 games, shooting at 42%. That's something to marvel at, especially for a guy that's 7'3" and is playing the 4/5 position.
Yeah, I mean, he's been able to put in the work, which is why he can have a bad shooting night and still, over the course of a few games, have a great shooting percentage. That just goes to the work he puts in and his ability to still figure it out and still make himself impactful and available. And he's always been a shooter. That's the thing. He can play with his back to the basket, but he's not a prototypical 5 when you look at his size and playing center. And he got the matchup of unicorns tonight when you think of the fact that, Lopez is also not a prototypical 5-man. He has the ability to stretch the floor as well as a 5-man, and I thought this was such an interesting matchup because typically KP doesn't have to go up against somebody who can do things similar to him, maybe not to the same extent and efficiency and ability that KP does it, but Lopez still has the ability to stretch the floor and do it efficiently. So I thought it was a very interesting matchup, but KP has put in the work, and that's the first thing with why he can shoot the ball as well as he does. And you look at the way he's, taken away first quarters. 5 of the last 7, he's had double figures in the first quarter. It's just getting that first quarter to also trickle into the second, third, and fourth with the way he puts the ball in the hoop. But that also goes to the adjustments that teams will make with regards to how they're going to defend him and double. And I thought tonight, even though it wasn't a great shooting night for him with regards to the numbers, I thought he did a great job of still having an impact, trying to limit Lopez as much as possible, having a hand in the face, the quote-unquote cornet contest when he would rotate to guys defensively, and as well, too, just getting guys to bait into falling for his foul baiting. Like, he not only baits the defender into these situations and puts them in a compromising position, but he also baits the officials into it as well. And at the end of the day, if contact is made, he immediately goes into a shooting motion, which is why you see him get to the free throw line as much as he does.
Jason, to your point, you saw Mr. Lopez in the paint tonight, and that's why overall you see him shooting at 38% for the night. The previous 3 games, 50%, 66%, 64%. So I'm looking at Detroit. I'm looking at Atlanta. I'm going to say 48%. Are you going to take Porzingis going over or under on that in field goal percentage against Detroit?
You know, I would take over. He is a very valuable asset on the offensive end. He goes out there, he shoots the ball relatively consistently from deep. Like you said, he's a great three-point shooter. Tonight he didn't have it. Why? You got Lopez contesting you at three-point land. You got Giannis contesting you at three-point land. Very good defensive bigs out there. I don't see Detroit having that kind of defensive output. They're not the Milwaukee Bucks. They have a very chaotic system over there. A lot of young players not necessarily getting the NBA defensive concepts just yet. What do? Take advantage of that. Porzingis, he goes out there with 18 points tonight. I think against the New York Knicks, he had 19 points in the first quarter. So this guy likes to get out to a hot start. If he's going to do that, feed him the basketball. This man goes out there, gets the party started for you. Then you have Bradley Beal step in. Hopefully Kyle Kuzma can come back from his knee injury. You get those guys coming back on a consistent basis of 1, 2, 3 punches in a row. That's a great victory recipe right there.
You know what's funny about this? Before the game, I asked you tonight, I said, is tonight one of those nights where Brad needs to go off for 30? And you said yes. And I said, is tonight a night that KP needs to go off for 30? And we both agreed yes. He had how many points? 24. What's 24 plus 6? 30. How many points does the Wizards lose by tonight? 6. Math, people. That's how we do it around here. See how we all connect all the dots? I know you love it. I feel really good right now. I want to remind new customers that you get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets when you download the FanDuel app. So right now, why don't you download it and start making every moment more. Jason, I'll give you an opportunity for revenge on me. It's called the Film Room, and it will be all yours when we return on PostGame. Hey, Sticks, the Film Room, it's all yours talking about Porzingis' first quarter. That was beautiful.
Porzingis got the party started. I've said it multiple times, but why? He was making it rain from mid-range. The Bucks were allowing him to go out there and do that. Now, granted, he's getting contested shots, but he was being aggressive on the offensive end. And for some reason, he likes to jump out the gates with a very, very hot start. Not only shooting threes or mid-range, but also slashing to the basket, being available for Delon Wright. I think that he has the uncanny ability to finish at the rim, mid-range, and 3. Now, threes weren't falling for him tonight, but the Milwaukee Bucks, they were allowing the ball movement, but they want to take away the 3 ball. They did that successfully. Porzingis realized that, but attacking Brook Lopez and trying to get to the rim, possibly get him into foul trouble, this is where he's dangerous. Not only can he shoot the basketball, post up, mid-range, shoot the 3, but he has the ability to put the ball on the ground, gets Lopez up in the air, and 1. That's why you like Porzingis so much, and that's why he had a great night tonight. 24 and 14, he did his job. It's just difficult with the Milwaukee Bucks. Threes, they made 22 of them. That's amazing to do.
Yeah, I mean, look, you explained it better than anybody else could, but I remember I said I was going to do something and let you have your moment to shine. During pregame, You were talking to me about the difference between Toronto's defense from last night versus the Bucks defense from tonight. And for those who weren't able to watch us during pregame, I would like for you to break down what you were saying here on postgame.
Oh, absolutely. With the Milwaukee Bucks, they like to give you threes, or they like to give you mid-range. They want to take away the threes. They want to take away the layups. In the pick and roll, the guard typically goes over on a lot of it. Make sure that you don't allow them to have easy threes. But what are they going to give up? They're going to give you a ton of space in the mid-range. As the analytics say, that's one of the worst shots to take in basketball. But if you can make it on a consistent basis, you can hurt the Milwaukee Bucks. Right there, DeLon Wright takes the shot with confidence because he's given so much space. Again, with the Milwaukee Bucks concepts, if you're a big, you're basically on an island. Perimeter players, they're going to stay glued to their three-point shooters. These guys realize, all right, Giannis is out there. He's basically a defensive player of the year candidate. But if you can make those mid-range shots on a consistent basis, that's where you can hurt them. That's where the Milwaukee Bucks have to kind of say, you know what, we got to change up our defensive schemes. However, the offense was flowing from Milwaukee. 22 threes, like I said, that's very difficult to beat. If you're going to allow mid-ranges, twos or less than three.
I think I'm going to have to get you like one of those little cards that sit in front of your desk that says Coach Smith.
I'm just saying.
Just breaking it down, bro.
Just saying.
I'm going to give you your flowers, bro. You Coach Smith.
Know what I'm talking about.
There we go. That's what it's all about. On the other side, we got to get you ready for this Detroit game. It's coming up in a couple of days, so that means pregame live starts at 6:30. 6:30, we want you here for Wizards Pistons. We know it was supposed to happen a while ago, but guess what? Rescheduled. Now it's happening March 7th. That will be on Tuesday, so be here. Wizards Pistons for pregame live here on NBC Sports Washington.
That's a tough one. That's a tough loss for sure. You know, we competed. We were in the game. Whole game. There's a few plays down the stretch that they hurt. You know, they think a couple. Shit, it was even me. Grayson out in threes, just overhelping a little bit. Even with those, we still had. I mean, we were only down one, tied the game. Like we were still there. You know, it's just they just made a few more plays than we did offensively down the stretch.
And it's Bradley Beal at the postgame podium. Megan, I'm coming to you first. Looking at Detroit, obviously it's a rescheduled game. We know how certain people on this team who are from Michigan want to beat the team that they grew up supporting. How do the Wizards get it done, having to slide up to Detroit to get the quick game?
I'm going to keep it brief. You got to punch first, put your foot on the throat, and do not look back. It's that simple. This is such a young team that they should not be able to be in the same arena with you. Punch first, put your foot on the gas pedal, and do not look back. Let's get back on the bus because you're on the first night of a back-to-back for the third in 4 days.
Sticks.
Wes, you tried to say get the first 3 quarters out the way so you can kind of have a little leeway.
I would like
rest.
to.
That is kind of the game plan that I would like them to institute. Exactly what you said, Megan. Punch first, don't look back. Make sure you take care of them because this is a young team. Don't let them outwork you. They're not going to shoot the three very well. They're a high turnover, high chaos. Focus in on the game plan, know your personnel, go out there and execute the offense, get Brad going, get Porzingis going, and hopefully Kuzma's back on the floor. Get a dub and go on to the next hit.
That last part, that's what I hope for. We know Monte's out week to week with that back soreness, but Kuz, hopefully, Mr. Flintstone, yeah, fingers crossed, toes crossed. If I cross my eyes, y'all gonna make a meme out of it, so I'm not gonna do that. But definitely want to make sure that he's in good spirits and in good health to be able to compete. Megan, we appreciate you as always. We know you got to hop on a flight. But before we do leave out of here, I didn't know if you got a chance to bust him up about his birthday because he's like 107 now.
I am not 107. She wished me a happy birthday.
Oh,
she
I
was
did.
probably the nicest of all of you to wish me a happy birthday.
Told him he doesn't look a day past 60.
Thank you. That's all I was saying. Did you get your AARP card yet? I know they were supposed to send it over.
Okay. All right. I'll just remember all of this. All of this.
It's okay. By the
Chris
time
Miller, Megan, Wes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, I texted that to you, though. I sent it to you as well.
I was going to say, I called you old in the text message with no shame about it, so it's all good. Wizards fans, we're having fun because we live for another day. Tuesday, we're going to be back in action, ready to take on those Detroit Pistons. Megan gave a great breakdown, so did Sticks. So on behalf of both of my esteemed colleagues and our great crew and staff here at NBC Sports Washington, I'm Wes Hall. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll see you Tuesday night, 6:30. Wizards Pistons on NBC Sports Washington.